Okay, so let's go ahead and do now. We're finishing up at page 29a. We're up to the mission on the bottom of the page. And so the Mishnah says like this. We'll learn some halachas that are somewhat familiar to us. And the first, we know that during the year, we read the Torah consecutively every week. We learn another parsha, so that another sedra. That way, we finish the Torah once a year, and Sukkot Torah we finish the Torah. We have one exception to that. We have 4 portions. There's more. When these 4 portions come, then we read outside. Now, well, right now we're going to go by the opinion that says that when these portions come, the 4 portions, which is namely Shkolim and Zocher, Hora, and Rachodesh. Those are 4 parshias that we read at one after the other. And the Gemara right now in the Mishnah will translate, it seems in the Poshet, that we interrupt. So, like, we will not read the parsha of the week, but rather we'll read those portions. And after we are done with these special 4 portions, then we go back to the parsha of the week. So wherever you're up to, you're going to go and make an interruption. And then you go back to the parsha of the week. So let's look inside. So the Mishnah goes like this. Rosh Chodesh Adar Shechal Liyos B'Shabbos. So you have the first day of Adar that comes on a Shabbos. So on that Shabbos, Rosh Chodesh Korim the Parsha Shkolim. We would read in the portion of Shkolim. Why do we read the portion of Shkolim? So Rashi explains, what is the portion of Shkolim? Korim the Parsha Shkolim, Zok Rashi, Lehoidia, so to let people know, Sheyaviu Shikleihem Bi Adar, that during the month of Adar, people should bring their shekels. That's the machzis shekel that they bring. So they need to know this that during the month of Adar, they should bring the shekel. Why do we need it in the month of Adar? Is kidei sheyakrivu be'echod b'nisan mitruma chadash.
In progress.
So that they would bring the korban, starting with the 1st of Nisan, from the new gift, which means that every year they started from the first day of Nisan to buy these korbanos from the new contribution. We're going to learn it out from a pasuk later on. So, how was it funded? Every person gave a half a shekel, and that went into the pot. And then they used that money to buy the communal sacrifices. But every year, they needed to buy the sacrifices from the new money that has arrived to them then. They need to bring it from the new money that they have gotten in Nisan. So therefore, on the Shabbos of Rosh Chodesh Adar, we will be reminding everybody, Kidei sheyakrivu be'echod b'nisan betruma chadasha, so that they should bring the korban, starting the 1st of Nisan, from the new separation, that is the new machatzis hashekel that they have brought from the new year for that year. Kidamrina b'Gemara, as we'll say in the Gemara. Nevertheless, the fact remains.
What did they do with the leftover money?
Huh?
What did they do with the money from the previous year?
Good question. These are all, there's a whole tractate called Tractate Shkolim. Over there, the Gemara goes through exactly all these details. What they would actually do, they would pay some of the old workers, and then there was ways of getting it back into the kupa again. There is various ways how this worked itself out. But the Torah wants it to be a new gift. But there's always ways of getting the old money to be sort of redirected, to re-exchange. If they owe people money for the work that they did. But there's a whole discussion about that in the Gemara over there, how that works. That's beyond the scope over here. Here we're just saying that on the Rosh Chodesh Adar, we start to read the portion of Shkolim. That is if what? If Rosh Chodesh Adar comes on Shabbos, right? As we'll see in the Gemara, today, if Rosh Chodesh comes on Shabbos, we actually take out 3 Sefer Torahs, remember? Because we take one for Rosh Chodesh, one for the Parsha Shavua, one for Rosh Chodesh, and one for Shkolim. But like I said before, one possibility is that when they read the Parsha Shkolim, they did not read the Parsha of the Torah. We'll go through that in the Gemara. But right now, what happens when Rosh Chodesh Adar comes out in the middle of the week, not on Shabbos? So then, if Rosh Chodesh Adar comes out in the middle of the week, so then Magdimim L'Shavar, then we proceed to read the portion Shkolim in the past, which means we do it a week earlier. So if Rosh Chodesh Adar is the middle of the week, we will do it in the previous Shabbos. After that, in that case, he says, Umafsikim l'Shabbos acheres. We make an interruption. We have 4 portions. We're not going to read the second portion on the second Shabbos. We're going to make an interruption. First Shabbos Shkolim. Second Shabbos interruption. We continue with the Parsha Shavua. And then we're going to go back the second one after the interruption. And so let's do Mafsikin l'Shabbos acheres. And we interrupt for the next week, because you read the week before, so you're going to interrupt the next week, which means you read Shkolim. You had Rosh Chodesh during that week. The Shabbos afterwards, you're not going to read any Parshas. And then you're going to go back to the Parshas Zohar. Umafsikin l'Shabbos habo, and we interrupt for the following Shabbos, Meloimar Parsha Shniya, from saying the second portion. Again, portion 1 is Shkolim, portion 2 is Zohar, portion 3 is Porah, and portion 4 is HaChodesh. So we're going to interrupt, we're not going to do the second Parsha. Kidei shetikore Parsha Zohar, because then we want that the portion of Zohar should be read the Shabbos Hasmucha LePurim. That should be the Shabbos that comes close to Purim. In that case, Purim is going to be in that week, so we want the Zohar not to. So we want from Zohar, we want to do right before Purim. We don't want to do Zohar a week and a half before Purim. We want it to be right before Purim. If we read Parsha Shkolim not on Rosh Chodesh, so then there's going to be another Shabbos over there. So we're going to interrupt with the second Shabbos. We're not going to read the second one. And in order to Shtikore Parsha Zohar b'Shabbos hasmucha lePurim, so that we can read the portion of Zohar in the Shabbos, which is close to Purim. The reason is lismoich mechias amolek lemechias Haman, so that we can make close erasing Amalek to the erasing of Haman. Of course, the Parsha Zohar talks about erasing the memory of Amalek. And in the Megillah, we want to erase, want to bang Haman, or we want to erase the memory of Haman, what he did. So therefore, we want them together. So we want, therefore, the Shabbos right before Purim to read the Parsha Zohar. And that's why we'll have an interruption between the Parsha of Shkolim with an empty week in between with a regular Parsha. And then we will read, on the third one, we will read the second Parsha, which is the Parsha of Zohar. Bishniya Zohar. The second one, and the second one, meaning the following after the interruption, the second week after the interruption, we'll do Zohar. Bashlishis, in the third week, we'll do Pora Aduma. We'll do the Parshas Pora. Why do we read the Parsha of the red heifer? The red heifer was used in order to clean people that were tamei. They touched a dead body, so the way to clean them was by sprinkling the ashes and going through the procedure of the Torah about Pora Aduma. So, since the people needed to be clean in order to eat the Korban Pesach, and the Korban Pesach was something all Yidden ate, they took part in it, and you can't take part in the Korban Pesach if you're not clean. In order to get clean, there's a process. The third day, the seventh day, you have to sprinkle. So therefore, we are telling the people about the Pora Aduma, lahazir es Yisrael, to warn the Jews, letahir, to become clean, because sheyasu pischeihem betahara, so that they should make their Pesach when they are pure, when they are clean, when they're tired. And then finally, the fourth Torah Berevis is Achodesh Hazeh Lochem. And the fourth one, we do Achodesh Hazeh Lochem. That's the parsha which discusses the whole mitzvahs of Pesach at the first time by Yitzias Mitzrayim. So Berevis Achodesh Hazeh Lochem. Shashom Parshas HaPesach over there is the portion, the section of Pesach. Rashi brings down in the order, the way it took place the very first time, in the order, the ways these portions was said, it went in the opposite order. The portion of Achodesh Hazeh Lochem was actually said on the first day of Nisan. The portion about Pora Aduma was said on the second day of Nisan. So one might think that the first should be read Achodesh Hazeh Lochem, which took place first, and then we should read Pora Aduma. Why was it set up Bashlishis Pora Aduma and only the fourth Achodesh Hazeh Lochem? It's out of sequence. So Rashi brings down from the Jerusalem Talmud, Ubeshas Yerushalmi Garsinan. In the Yerushalmi Talmud over there, we learn, Omar Rabbi Chaim, says Rabbi Chaim, V'dinhu, by right, V'dinhu, by right, Shetagdim, Sheyagdim, HaChodesh, Leparshas Paro. By right, the portion of HaChodesh should come before the portion of Paro. Why? Because that's the sequence of the order when the parshas were said. Shari be'echod b'mishkan b'nisan hukam ha-mishkan. On the first day of Nisan, the Mishkan was erected. And Rashi doesn't say it, but that's when the portion of Achodesh Hazeh Lochem Rosh Chodoshim was said, on the day that the Mishkan was erected. I don't know where Rashi is bringing the proofs of Echad Benis Nuka and Mishkan, and not that Achodesh Hazeh Lochem was on the. We learn out that it's on Rosh Chodesh Nisan. It was, but anyways, and V'sheni Loi Nisr for Hapara. It was only on the second day of Nisan that the heifer was burnt. Actually, so it's not about when the parsha was actually said to them. It's really about when it took place. So Rashi is just saying that the Torah was burnt on the second after the Mishkan was raised, and then they can burn the Torah. So, but Chodesh should come before Parshas Torah. Not doesn't seem like Rashi is saying because this portion was said first, but just because by right that's this. The burning of the Torah took place after Rish Chodesh. It was on the second day the Torah was burned. So, therefore, so how come we do the Parshas Torah before the Parshas Chodesh? And the answer is that's from the Yerushalmi, Shehi Taroson Shel Yisrael, because that is the purity of Yidden. Since that talks about the Tara of a Yidden is very important, and that's why we write about it first before we do HaChodesh HaZelachar. Okay. What happens B'Chamishis on the 5th week? Over there is Chayzrim L'Kisidram. We go back to the order, which means we go back to the Parshas HaShavua. You made an interruption, and now we go back. That's the Pashtup Shadir. The Gemara gives further a rule: La koil mafsiki. We will interrupt for everything. And what do we interrupt? Zakt Rashi, melikros b'inyan hayom. We make an interruption as not to read in the matter of the day. What is the matter of the day? Every parsha follows the other parsha, so the inyan hayom would be the parsha of that week, but we interrupt that. We are going to read in the aspect of the holiday what happened then. We're going to take a break. We're not going to read in the parsha of the yom. We're taiching now mafsiki, meaning that it will interrupt. We don't read at all, and we read about the holiday, what happened then, and then we go back. And this would apply to all Rosh Chodashim. Apparently on Rosh Chodesh, if it comes out on Shabbos, Hanukkah, with its Kriya, Purim, its Kriya, tiniest, the Kriya for a tiniest. We'll see in the next Mishnah is going to talk about all the prayers. Ube Ma'amodis. What is Ma'amodis? Ma'amodis is people would gather the korbanos. It would be Yisrael b'Ma'amodim. The Kohen brought the offerings. The Levi were the singers, and the Jewish people, the regular Bnei Yisrael, they would stand there, and they had representation. And they were also reading. What were they reading? So Rashi says the Ma'amodis. They would read in the act of Bereshis, the beginning of the Chumash Bereshis. Later in the Mishnah, the Gemara will say all the different things that they read and you interrupt. And finally, Ubiyem Kippurim. Also, on Yom Kippur, we'll also interrupt. How is Yom Kippur different than Tiny? There's various different interpretations, whether it means Shachris and Mincha, whether it means what teaches out specifically, but it means the same thing. Various different ways to say, but it's all these cases. And we'll wait later on the Gemara to see exactly what is the reading over there. Tainis usually does not override Shabbos B'chlal besides Yom Kippur. Hanukkah and Purim. I mean, that's let's wait till the next Mishnah. Do the Gemara. The non-Hosam, we learned in the Mishnah in Masechta Shkolim. So over there it says that be'echad be'odar mashmiim al hashkolim. that from the first day of Adar, we announce about the Shkolim. Mashmi means we let hear. People should know about the Shkolim. How do we do that? This is separate than what we were talking about in our Mishnah that we read in the portion of Shkolim, in the Shabbos Rosh Chodesh or the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh. Over here, we're talking about Beis Din announces Mashmi'in ala Shkolim. Zokt Rashi b'hachrozes Beis Din. That's an announcement of Beis Din that you let people know that they need to bring the shekels. What else do they do on Echad Ba'ader? There's something else they do then. Turning the page. Chavtes Amid Beis, 29b. V'al HaKilayim. The Mishnah says, and also on the Kilayim, you announce the Kilayim. What does it mean, announce the Kilayim? Lakoir v'al HaKilayim, Rashi, Lakoir Kilei Azroim. Anikorim bein hatvua, to uproot the kilayim, the mixtures that get mixed in by the seed, that you can tell between the tavua, between the grain. What happens is at that time, when people are sowing the fields, you can already say if there is a mixture of some other kind that doesn't belong over there, so you can uproot it before it will make aser, because if it grows together for a while, Messiah, whatever, it'll make it aser. So, starting on Rosh Chodesh Adar, we do two things. We announce about the shekel, and we also announce about the kilayim, that people should uproot the kilayim of their sown that is recognizable amongst the grain to rip them out. That's the Mishnah. But the Gemara is trying to understand the Mishnah. So, Bishloima al hakilayim. Okay, we understand why we have to announce then about the kilayim on Rosh Chodesh Adar, because the Zaman Zriyahi, because that's the time when people are sowing. So when you're sowing, you want to make sure that you don't have any mixture there. Ella al hashkolim, but you say that you're also going to announce about the shkolim. Minola, where do we know this, that you have to announce about the shkolim on Rosh Chodesh? Amar Rab Tevi, Amar Rabbi Yoshia. Says Rab Tevi in the name of Rabbi Yoshia. Says the Amar Kra, because the pasuk says, in Bamidbar Chavches, over there the pasuk talks about the korban of Rosh Chodesh. So the Torah says like a lot of words over here. It says Zois, after it finished, tells you what the offering of Rosh Chodesh is. It says Zois Oilas Chodesh B'Chotshei. This is the oila, the burnt offering of the month. In its month, for the month of the year, it says. In other words, look, Rashi quotes further in the pasuk. Chodesh b'chodshei l'chodshei hashana, to the month in its renewal for the month of the year. So Rashi says, so what is Rabbi Tevi trying to say here? And Rabbi Tevi named Rabbi Yoshia. Kol hani chadoshim lomali. Why does he have to say so many times chadoshim? This is the oil of the chodesh. So oilas chodesh b'chodshei l'chodshei hashana. What this means? But he says like this. Amra Torah, what the Torah is saying over here is chadesh v'hovei korban mitruma chadosh. Renew and bring the korban of the new gift. So this is the source to bring a renewal, a chodesh, to bring a korban from the new truma. Rashi is going to explain. Ella Amra Torah, what the Torah is telling you over here, that yesh lo chodesh she'ata tzorich lechatshei b'havos oilos tmidim umusafim Mitruma Chadosha. There is a month that you need to renew that month by bringing the oilos from the constant and the musaf Mitruma Chadosha, from the new Truma. V'zehu Nisan, that's Nisan. So that's the chodesh to make a new, in a month, a new carbon from a new gift, from a new separation. Kidamrinon b'Rosh Hashanah, as the Gemara says in Masechta Rosh Hashanah, the Gamrinon Shana min Nisan. It says over here l'chodshei Hashana. By Nisan it says Iksiv Rishnu lochem l'chodshei Hashana. It says Shana dir Nashana here. So we're saying that the new gift has to come from the month of Nisan, which is the Rishon l'chodshei Hashana from the month of Nisan. There we learn out that the korban is brought, a new korban, new monies, new gifts are brought for the korbanos starting from the month of Nisan. So, since we have to bring from them, the kivon de benisan boyi akruva betruma chadosha. Since on Nisan we need to bring from this new gift, the new half a shekel, kadminon vekarinon be'echod be'oder. So that's why we go ahead, make it early, and we announce it on the first day of Adar. So that they should bring the shekels to the Mikdash. So you give them a whole month from the first day of Nisan or Adar to prepare themselves to bring the shkolim for the korban that they need to bring a machzah shekel for the new korbanos. Okay. So the Gemara says, who is the one that needs such a long preparation and 2 weeks is not enough? Here you're giving them a whole month. You only need starting from Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and you're already doing it from the beginning of Adar. Why do you need a full month? Why is 2 weeks not good enough? In another place, we see that preparation of 2 months is sufficient. The Gemara brings, there's an opinion of Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. He says that when we prepare before the Yom Tov, we prepare for 2 weeks. There's a machlokes over there. How much before the Yom Tov you have to prepare and study the laws? And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he says that you do it 2 weeks, not a month. And here we require a month, so maybe it doesn't go like Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. The Gemara Kiman, like whom? Like whom do we go by that Magdiminon Kuli High, that we make it so early? Seems not to be reasonable to make it all the way to the beginning of the month if all that you needed is for a month from now. Why do we need it so early? So the Gemara says the Loi Reb Shimon Gamliel. This seems not to go like Reb Shimon ben Gamliel. Why? The Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, because if it goes like Reb Shimon Gamliel, Omar, he says Shtei Shabbos. He usually says that 2 weeks would be sufficient. We don't need a whole month. The Tanya, because we learned in a Brisa. Why is this not working? I don't know. Tanya, we learned in a Brisa. Shoyelin the Hilchas HaPesach Koidam LePesach Shloshim Yom. We are going to ask in the laws of Pesach before Pesach for 30 days. That's the opinion of the Tanna Kama. So it takes 30 days to discuss the questions that we have about Pesach. Rav Shimon Gamliel says Shtei Shabbos is 2 weeks is enough. Since over here we require a month, so that means it doesn't go like Rav Shimon ben Gamliel. And the Gemara says no. Afilu Teimer of Shimon Gamliel. This can go to Gamliel. This is different. Why? Even the Omar Mar, since Mar said that Bachamisha Osor Boi Shulchan Yoshvim b'Medina, starting with the 15th, the money changers, people needed a half a shekel, so it'd be Shulchanos means table, but it means they used to sit. The money changers used to sit by the table, and they would give you a half a shekel for copper coins that you would give them. So they were sitting already by the table starting with the 15th. And that is where Yoshim Bamedina, that's in the country all over Israel. But Ubechov Hey, Yoshim Bamigdosh. But on the 25th, that's 5 days earlier, over there, they're sitting in the Beis Hamikdash. And Rashi explains, Yoshim B'Migdosh, that means that's a sign, who's Simon, that's a sign, Shekvar Korav Zman Litrim Es Halishka B'Sholish Kupos, that the time has already come to separate the room. They had a special room where they kept all these coins, and they used to use three buckets. They used to use three kupas, one, Aleph, Beis, and Gimel. The Gemara goes through in Shkolim the whole procedure over there. But on the 25th, they put him next to the Mikdash because to tell you that it's already time, because that almost Rosh Chodesh Nisan is almost there. The Yamaruvi of you, people will come quickly and bring. And he says, the Ma'oisoi Hayoim, from that day, from the 25th, Maschilin the Mashkin Es HaMa'akvim. They start to take collaterals from those who hold back, those who are not bringing their things. So Bezdin will take by force. They'll take a mashkin from them. They'll take a collateral from them. So that's why we have the 25th. So, but the bottom line is, when do the table people come out? When do the changes come out? On the 15th. So he says, Mishum Shulchanis, because of these exchangers by the tables, Kadminon Vikarinon, we proceed and we announce it, which means we go 2 weeks before when the tables people start to sit by the exchangers. Mishum Shulchanis Kadminon Zoktrashi Le'echod Ba'odar, to the first day of Odar. The Hainu Shtei Shabbosis, that would be 2 weeks. And Rashi adds, the time of the Rav Shimon Gamliel v'Rabbanon, the Perikama de Psachim. What's the reason of Shimon Gamliel and Rabbanon is the first Perik of Psachim. So, well, in that case, if I ask you, okay, so you reconciled with the opinion of Rav Gamliel, even though Rav Gamliel says that when it comes to the laws of Pesach, you can start 2 weeks before, but here you have to start 2 weeks before when the tables come out, which is on the 15th. So now I'm going to ask you, so what about the Rabbanon? So why don't the Rabbanon then make it from the, who say that you need 30 days, they should make it on the 15th of Shvat, have a month before the tables come out. If they need a whole month, they need, right? So you reconciled it according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, but what about the Rabbanon? And the answer, I think, is partial, because we're not doing it for the time. It is the chiddush of the Gemara that we do it for the table. That's not the real time. The time is Rosh Chodesh. And you technically, that's why, according to the Chacham, you don't need it more than a month before, because that's a month before them. I don't care when the tables comes out. Only to reconcile Rav Shimon Gamliel, we're saying that he takes it into consideration when the tables comes out, when they start exchanging. And that's why it also fits with him that they start announcing it on Rosh Chodesh Odar. Okay. Now, the Gemara wants to know, what is the portion of Shkolim? My Parsha Shkolim. So you read, the first one you read Shkolim. What is Shkolim? Rav Omar, Rav says that's the pasuk Bamidbar that talks about the Rosh Chodesh. Talks about the Korban Tamid. I'm sorry. Talks about the Korban Tamid. Sabes b'nei Yisrael v'amarta leimas karboni lachmi leishay reichem reichem tishu v'lachli b'moyadoi. The pasuk continues there to talk about the Korban Tamid. So that's the Parshas Shkolim. We'll see. The Gemara is going to laugh. Ushmul Amar, Shmuel says that the pasuk is actually the beginning of Kisiso, and then they give a machzis hashekel as an atonement. That is what is the Parshas Shkolim. Oh, so the Gemara starts to analyze this. It is okay, according to the view that we're reading Kisiso. So we understand that's why we call it the portion of Shkolim. The Ksiba Shkolim, because over there it talks about Shkolim. It says you have to bring a half a shekel, so that's what we call it Parsha Shkolim. But according to the opinion that says we read the portion of the Korban Tami, Korban Lachmi, why would we call it Parsha Shkolim? Now, let's take a look. Is there any Shkolim written over there? It says about Karbonis, it doesn't talk about Shkolim. Why do we call it Parsha Shkolim if that's the Parsha we read? And the Gemara says, in. Yes? Even though it doesn't say about Shkolim, but it does say about bringing from the new Beferish, but it does say, Chodesh B'chodshoi, which is in that Parsha, which says that you have to bring new gifts, that is the new Shkolim. So it doesn't say the word shekel there, but it still means Shkolim. In time of Mai Kid Rabbi Tevi. The reason is, like Rabbi Tevi said, like we quoted before, that you have to, why do we announce it? Because you have to bring the new korbanos from the new Shkolim. Time of Mai Kid Rabbi Tevi. It says like that. Time of Mai. My sino shkolim be'oder. What is the reason that we bring shkolim in the first place in order? It Rabbi Tevi. It goes like Rabbi Tevi, who says sheyakrivu korbanos be'echad b'Nisan, so that they would bring the korbanos starting from the first of Nisan, truma chadasha. V'ach mitzvah ksiva. This mitzvah that you do, the new truma, is written in the parshas of Korban Tamid. Zeiseilas chodesh b'chodshei. So that's why it talks about the shkolim. It doesn't say the word shkolim, but it means you bring a new karbonis. The Gemara asks the other way, a question. Bishleim elamanda Omar Savas b'nei Yisrael. So, okay, according to the opinion that says that we read the portion of the Talmud, that's the Parsha Shkolim, and we understand the Ksiva Karbonis Hosam, because over there it talks about the Karbonis. And it says that you bring the karbonis over there. You bring the new karbonis like Reb Tevi. We understand that. So, what it wants is kisi. So, yes, but the shkolim were used for something else. Karbonis miksivi. Is it then written karbonis? You didn't bring no shekel there for karbonis. Shkolim la'adonim kisivi. Those shekels that the pasuk says in kisiso, they made the sockets out of those shekels. That shkolim were not made for karbonis. So why are we reading Kisiso, which talks about the adonim, the sockets? We're talking about karbonis over here. Why would we be reading that parsha? Dr. Rashi, shkolim adonim ksiv yosma, but there the shkolim are for adonim. Kidiksiv. The pasuk says, "Lokachto es kesef hakipurim." Take these money of the Kippurim atonement money, that's the Kisiso, and put it for the work of the oil moyed that you made the Adonim from them. They are the Shkolim that from them was made the Mishkan. Kidiksiv, as the Pasuk says, the Kesef Pekudei Ha'ida. The pasuk in Vayakil over there, it says that when they counted up the money that you got, the silver from counting of the people, it says Vayhi Ma'as Kikar HaKesef. So it was 100 chunks of silver, that was made to form and to make the holy sockets. So why would we say that, read this parsha of Shkolim in Kisisa, which has nothing to do with Karbonis? The Gemara answers no. That's really like Rabbi Yosef learned that Sholish Trumasein. In the parsha, there's 3 trumas over there. It's not true that it was only 1 truma. There's 3 trumas hinted over there. And Rashi, and one of them was actually for the Mizbeach. Sholish trumas nem Rishon. It says 3 times truma in the portion of Kisisa. It says Machzis HaShekel Truma La Hashem. So that's 1. Yiten Trumas Hashem 2. And Losis is Trumas Hashem 3. So he says like this: Trumas Adonim, Oisol Adonim. The gift for the sockets went for the sockets. Utrumas Mizbeach, and the gift for the Mizbeach went to Mizbeach, which is Liknes Mehem Korbonis Tzibul Chol HaShona. That is to purchase the communal sacrifice for the entire year. Diksibo, about this it says L'chaper al Nafshei Seichem. When it says over here, in the first one, that means, what is an atonement on your soul? That's the Trumas Mizbeach. Losis is Trumas Hashem l'chaper nafshei seichem. That's the Trumas of the Mizbeach. So therefore, Shel Mizbeach, the funding of that was collected for the Mizbeach, that went to the Mizbeach to buy the Karbonis. Shel Adonim, that was collected for the sockets, that went to Adonim. Shel Bedek Habayis, that went to Bedek Habayis. That was made to fix the structure, that went to Bedek Habayis. Rashi says what the people just gave for the strengthening of the house, which means just regular gifts for the Beis Hamikdash, for the upkeep, basically. Bedek Habayis, Hiloi Hoyso Shava Bekulam. That was not the same. Not everybody. The other was a Machzis HaShekel. For the Adonim and for the Karbonis, everybody gave exactly Machzis HaShekel equal. But for the support and the ongoing expenses of the Beis Hamikdash, that wasn't equal. Every person gave according to their benevolence, whatever they felt. The men came over the women, all those benevolent of hearts, and they took. So that was that just what they, as much as generous as they were, that's what they gave. But it wasn't a fixed amount which everybody gave. Okay. So now the question becomes, what are we going to read on the Rosh Chodesh Oder? We're going to read the Parsha Shkolim, but the Parsha Shkolim is really the Parshas of Rosh Chodesh. So since it's also Rosh Chodesh, how is the Parsha Shkolim going to be different? It's the same Parsha. According to the man, it says like this. It makes sense, according to the opinion, that it's Kisisa. That what we're reading is Kisisa. Because Hainu Deshoni, Rosh Chodesh Rosh Chodesh. That's why this Rosh Chodesh would be different than other Rosh Chodesh. Because on this Rosh Chodesh we're going to read Kisisa, and in the other Rosh Chodesh they read from the Rosh Chodesh. But according to the opinion that says we read Tzavas Karboni, which is the Parsha of Rosh Chodesh, Shoni. So what's the difference? How are you going to tell it's Parsha Shkolim? You're reading the regular Rosh Chodesh reading. Rosh Chodesh you read Tzavas Karboni. And the Gemara says no, Shoni, there's a difference. The Ilu Rashi Chodoshim. So the Gemara gives now in court because on Rosh Chodesh Koru Shito Binyana de Yoma. So then you have 6 people reading. You have 6 people reading Binyana de Yoma, reading the Parshas of Shavua. That you have 6 people reading. And the 7th, B'chad b'd Rosh Chodesh. And the 7th reads on Rosh Chodesh. We do it differently. We do them after Rosh Chodesh, but again, that's in the Gemara over here. You'll have 6 people reading the regular parsha, and this doesn't go according to the one that says that you interrupt, you don't read the parsha at all. But 6 will read the regular parsha, and 1 would read Rosh Chodesh. That's in the regular Rosh Chodesh. So every time when Rosh Chodesh is on Shabbos, if it's not Parshas Kolim, you have 6 people reading the regular Aliyahs, and the 7th is Rosh Chodesh. But in this case, when Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Chodesh Oder on Shabbos, Kulu b'd Rosh Chodesh. Over here, we're going to read only Rosh Chodesh. In other words, we're not going to read Minyana de Yoma. We're going to read all in Rosh Chodesh. Now, okay, so the Gemara learns that, again, that if you interrupt, so this is okay, what you're saying, according to the opinion, later on B'Pirkin, that he translates, when the Mishnah says on the 5th one, you're going back to the order, that it means the Seder Parshiyah Suchoizer. That it means that he's going back to the order of the Parshiyas. So basically it means that when you read the Parshas Shkolim, which in this case is the Parsha of Sefer Chodesh, you didn't read anything of the Parshas of the week, and therefore you're saying now that when Parsha Shkolim, you'll only read in the portion of Rosh Chodesh. Because we're saying that during the week, he doesn't read at all. Look at the Rashi. Say the Parsha Chodesh, you go back to the order of the Parshas. Shakoru es Eila. They read these. In other words, you interrupted by reading these 4 parshas, Shkolim, Zocher, Hora, and Nachodesh. So you read these parshas, the 4 parshas. Vivsiku Malikris is parshas Shabbos, and they stopped reading the portion of Shabbos during that time. So then we can say, as you're saying, that on this Shabbos, they all read Rosh Chodesh because we don't read any Parsha Shavua. But according to the other opinion that says the Mefarish Chayzrim the Kisidron the Seder Haftoides, the other one that says that what does it mean? They go back to the order. They never interrupted the Parsha. All what they interrupted was the order of the Haftoides. Chayzrim the Kisidron means the Seder Haftoides. That during those parshas we changed the Haftoides, but the parshas will be always read. Alma Haftoides Ufsukadheina. So that means the Haftoides have been interrupted. Avo loya parshas, but the parshas were never interrupted. That hashtag koronami minyana de yema. So they would read minyana de yema. So therefore, it means that also on Parshas Shkolim, we read the regular Parshas Shavua. So my shani, so how is it different than any other Rosh Chodesh? How is this Parshas Shkolim different than any other Rosh Chodesh? On Rosh Chodesh, you read this Parsha, and on Shkolim you read the Parsha, the same Parsha. So let's look inside. Let's say that after but according to the opinion that says that he goes back to the order of Torah. Now we do read the portion of the week. My shoni, how is the Rosh Chodesh other different than any other Rosh Chodesh? How do we see the Parsha Shkolim when you're reading the same portion for Adar, for Rosh Chodesh, and for Rosh Chodesh. When it's a Shani, there is a difference. Because if a regular Rosh Chodesh, so you read the 6 in the Parsha of Shavua, and 1 reads in the Rosh Chodesh. But in Shkolim, when it's Rosh Chodesh, other over there we do the Parsha Shkolim, Korut Loso Binyan Diyama. Over there we read 3 in the Parsha Shavua, Barbo Korut Rosh Chodesh, and 4 read Rosh Chodesh. Okay, maybe we're going to leave it over here. Maybe we're going to leave it over here. You see here.